What do you remember about the conversation? I remember him telling me that time was of the essence, that, well, he was trying to explain to me, which I later found out was, it was a little different, is that these guys was also trying to kill Irv Gotti, was trying to actually rob him and extort him. Okay, who was Irv Gotti? He's a rapper, like he's in the music industry. Okay, at the time, did you know what Irv Gotti's business was in the music industry? Yeah, I knew who he was. Who was he? Just a producer. He ran a company. What was the company called? Murder Inc. And did that company have any famous artists that made the company well known? Gyro and Ashanti. And did you learn anything about from Supreme about his relationship with Irv Gotti? Yeah, that they was good friends. What else did McGriff tell you then? He told me that he had other guys that was looking for the guys that he wanted me to kill too, so... And what was the context of him telling you that? Try to get us to do faster. Did you have a discussion at that point about whether you were going to be the one to kill the person or whether you needed additional people? Yeah, he said I needed more people, like 3 or 4 guys. Okay, did he tell you how many people it was that... Did McGriff tell you how many people he wanted dead? Yes, 4. It was 4 guys. Did he share the names with you at that point? Yes. What were the names? Big Nose Troy, E Moneybags, a guy named Homicide, and another guy named Green Eyed Born. Okay, this was in 2001, correct? Yeah, around 2001. I'm not sure on the dates. Did you discuss a means of communicating between the two of you? Yeah, we used phones, but he gave me, I had a two-way pager. He told me he would give me another one later. So did you use a two-way pager to communicate with him at times? Yes. And you also used telephones? Yes. And did you discuss, well, what did you do after this meeting? How did you leave things with him? He actually wanted to show me a house that we was going to stay at. And by the way, did you discuss money at some point? Yes. What was the discussion about money? The contract was for $25,000. $25,000? A person, per person. Per shooter or per victim? Per victim. And you said that McGriff wanted to show you a house? Yeah, he took us to a house in Queens. Can you describe anything about the house? All I remember is the house was close to like a little pond. Alright, I am going to show you what's been marked as Government's Exhibit 2002-A, 2002-C, and 2002-D for identification, and I will just show them all to you. Do you recognize 2002A? Yeah, that's the house. Okay, this is the house that McGriff showed you? Yes. 2002C, do you recognize that? It looks like the pond I was just describing. Okay, and 2002D, do you know if that's near the house? Yeah, that's a little further on the left. On the right side, my right side of the house, it's the street, an avenue. Same street and avenue, just not right here, near the house? Yes. I'll move exhibits 2002A, C, and D as in David into evidence. Alright, no objection, they're in. What is it that McGriff wanted to show you about this house? Just where me and other guys would be staying. What do you mean by staying? Like when we came to Queens, because when we came, we didn't really know what the guys looked like. So when we came to Queens, we would probably stay in this house for a while and then go out and look for the guys and then come back to this house. I actually left the guys that I had brung out to Queens with me. They stayed there. I never stayed there. Okay, so this was a place where McGriff was offering you and your team to stay? Yes. While you were looking for these people, is that right? Yes. Okay, after that meeting, what did you do? We went to his house and we stayed there for. He just showed the house and then we all just left. And what did you do after that? Excuse me? What did you do after leaving the house? I went home. Okay. How about during the days that followed that? We came back and forth to Queens. I came back and forth to Queens and we rode around and we looked for the guys. We had a guy named. Let me just stop you there. Before you actually went out, did you hire people to do this with you? Yes. Okay. Who did you hire? A guy named TJ, Barry Broughton, Smiley, and Les. All right. So we saw Exhibit 28. That's Barry Broughton. You saw 27, is that right? Smiley. Okay, and just for identification, I'll show you the last three, which are 31. Do you recognize who that is? Les. Okay, and 57. Do you recognize that person? TJ. Number 57, did you say? Yes, Your Honor. 31, 57, and 58? Who is 58? Show him 58. Who is that? Les. So, Les again? I'll cut that down to 57 and 31. I'll move both of those into evidence. This may be a good time to take our mid-morning break. We will return in 15 minutes, 10 to 12 o'clock. All right, let's continue with the questioning. Mr. Mosley, just one thing I'd just like to follow up with. In your 1987 arrest, when you were arrested for the guns in the back of the livery cab, do you recall that you were interviewed at that time for what's called a pre-sentence report in the state? In what year? In 1987. Oh, 1987. You said I was interviewed for probation? Before sentencing in that case by the state authorities? No. Okay. I'd like to just show you what I'll deem marked as 3500-EM-6. I'm going to show that just to the witness. Is it on your screen? It's not on mine. Mr. Mosley, is that on your screen? It didn't come up on mine. Yes. Okay, so I'm just going to point down here. During that interview, do you recall telling the authorities that you just pled guilty to get the case over with and that you didn't do it? Yeah, I didn't get caught with the firearms. Okay, but you actually knew that the guns were there, correct? There were two individuals in the car with me. I knew they had guns on them. I watched them put them under the seat of the cab. Okay, and so you legally possess those guns, correct? Yes. All right, so let's go back. I'm just going to show you for identification Government's Exhibit 30. Do you recognize that person? How about? Okay, I move Exhibit 30 into evidence. All right, no objection in evidence. And who is how about? That's the guy that used to drive us around Queens when we was looking for the guys. Okay, so this was someone who was affiliated with who? Supreme McGriff. And had you known him before you agreed to commit these murders for Supreme? No. And did this is the person that showed you around Queens when you were looking for the victims, is that right? Yes. Excuse me, what number is that again? Exhibit 30, Your Honor. Just 30. Okay, in evidence. So let me go back then to the people that you recruited to murder. Now, did you have an order for what victim was going to be killed? Big Nose Troy and E Moneybags. And did McGriff tell you why it was that those people had to be murdered first? Yeah, he told me that E Moneybags was trying to extort Irv Gotti and that Big Nose Troy was like partners with him. Okay, and for that job, you said that you recruited Tripp. Is that correct? Yes. And so, in evidence, Exhibit 28, that's Tripp, correct? Yes. Okay, and you said you had known Tripp going back even as far as Pennsylvania, right? Yes. All right. Government's Exhibit 27, which is in evidence. Alvin Smiley. And how did you happen to recruit him for this hit team? I recruited him through Les. And how was it that Les knew this person? From the Polo Grounds. We all live in the same neighborhood. Okay, and was there anything... Did he say Polo Grounds? Sorry, is that what you said? The Polo Grounds? Yeah, from the Polo Grounds. Was that near your neighborhood, the Polo Grounds? Yeah, about 6 blocks difference. And what, if anything, did you learn from Les about Alvin Smiley that made Alvin a candidate in your mind to do this? He told me that Alvin had shot somebody or shot at someone with a shotgun. And you also said that you recruited someone named TJ? Yes. What caused you to recruit TJ? That was through Les as well. That was his friend. Okay, and did you learn anything about TJ, or what was that? Why was it that you hired him? Les just told me that he would be down. Okay, and by be down, what do you mean by that? To roll with the hit team. So, just so the jury's clear, 57 in evidence is who? TJ. Okay, and 31 in evidence? Les. And by the way, 26, which I think is already in evidence, if not, that's me. Okay, so if it's not, I would just move it into evidence. Exhibit 26 is in evidence now. Was there anybody else that you hired for this? For this particular job? Yeah. eBay. Alright, well, didn't you hire eBay to do Troy? Yeah, but that was later on. Initially, the guys that you just put on the screen, those are the guys that I hired initially. Okay, so there were 2 murders, right? Yes. The first one was E-Moneybags, correct? Yes. And the second one was Troy, correct? Yes. And you didn't hire eBay for the first one, right? No. He didn't participate in that, right? Not at all. Alright, so once you had recruited these people, you said that you spent time looking for the victims, is that right? Yes. Okay, how did you go about doing that? Well, first of all, how did you go about knowing who you were going to kill? Because how about knew all these guys, all the individuals involved, so he would be our eyes? Did you have a photograph of any of those people? Yeah, we had a blurry photograph of E-Moneybags. Okay, and can you describe, did you go to this house while you were looking for E-Moneybags? Yes. Can you describe what was in the house? We actually went to the basement. We never really explored the whole house. We went in the house and went straight down to the basement, which consisted of just lots of videotapes and TV and a couch. And that's where we had the guns at. That's where the guns that Supreme gave us to actually do the job was inside the house, in the basement. Can you describe how you knew the guns were there and what guns you and your team had access to? He gave us the guns. He gave me the guns, actually. Me and him talked about, firearms. I told him we would need him to provide them for us. So he took me there personally by myself first and gave me a bag. It was in a black duffel bag. Was this different from the day that Supreme first showed you the house? Yes. So you went out to Queens again and met with Supreme? Yes. What else do you remember about that meeting? That was the meeting when he kept explaining to me how many guys it was and, how fast he needed it done. Okay, how did he pass the guns to you? They was already in the basement, so when I went there, he just pulled out the bag and showed them to me. How many guns were in the bag, do you remember? It was a few guns, maybe about 8 to 10. Okay, do you remember anything about the guns? There was a bulletproof vest, one that was made of a t-shirt, and there was a couple of 9mm, AR-15, and just a bunch of handguns. Okay, for somebody who's not familiar with guns, what does an AR-15 look like? It's a machine gun. Can you explain what happened when you started looking for either e-moneybags or Big Nose Troy? We would just ride around to different various places. We'd even ride around at nighttime, go to different clubs, see if How About would be able to spot any of them. And what did you do at the end of a night looking for the victims? We returned back to the house and I'd go home and I'd leave the guys there. Did the people that you had hired, where did they stay at night? They stayed in the house. All right, and did you see Supreme McGriff during this time? Yeah, I seen him periodically. He was going back and forth out of town. Now, when you would look for the victims, were you all in the same car, your whole team? Yeah, we had 2 different vehicles that we used that he provided for us. Can you explain that? What part? Just explain, did you have a pattern of who would ride in what car and how you would ride around? We didn't have a real pattern. It wasn't set up that way. Okay. We just periodically get in cars and just go, but How About would do a lot. He would do all the driving pretty much, so he could show us around Queens. How about Supreme McGriff? Was he ever present when you were looking for the victims? Yes, on several different occasions, but it would just be me and him. Okay, can you explain that further? You and him would meet up? Yeah, me and him would meet up, separate from the guys. The guys never really met Supreme. I'd keep that separate. Was there a reason that caused you to keep them separate? Yes, I didn't really want them to know who we was doing the job for. Why is that? Because of the coming to jail and any of those guys end up sitting where I'm sitting. When you rode with Supreme to look around, was the hit team nearby or was it just the 2 of you looking, you and Supreme? They'd be nearby. Would they be in a separate car? Yeah, with How About. While you were looking, did you carry a firearm with you? Sometimes. How about Supreme? Did he have a firearm? Yes. How do you know? He showed it to me. All right. When you were in the car with your hit team, did they have guns with them? Yes. Where did they carry the guns? We had a stash inside the car on the side of the car. What do you mean by a stash spot? There was a panel in the door that would open up. If you turn the dial of the radio and turn on the air conditioner, it would open up. So would that be something that you wouldn't see unless you knew it was there? Absolutely. Were you looking for the victims every single day? Not every day. How often do you recall doing that? Like 10 days out of a 14-day span? Well, if you were in the car with Supreme, how did you communicate, if at all, with the other people on the team? We had walkie-talkies. Did your crew successfully kill E-Moneybags? Yes. About how long do you remember looking for him, to the best of your recollection, before the team killed him? Maybe a few months, maybe a month and a half or so. Do you recall how you found him? Yes. What happened? How About had a girlfriend, I can't remember her name, but we been in contact with her, and E-Moneybags used to be around that area that she lived in. And she was looking out the window and she saw his car and he was driving a Jeep and she had a videotape and she was videotaping it and at the same time she was videotaping, she was talking to Supreme on the phone. Was Supreme with you when E Moneybags was murdered? Yes. Can you explain how it is that you traveled to the murder scene? First of all, where was the hit team when you found out where E Moneybags was? In the house. The lake house? Yes, the lake house. And how did you get from the lake house to where the murder happened? The lady called Supreme was telling him that E Moneybags was over there, so when she called him, he told me about it and I told him to get ready. You were already with Supreme? Yes, I was with him already. You received a phone call. The lady you mean How About's girlfriend? Yes. What happened then? We all got in different, separate cars. Me and him, we got in a different car. I walkie-talkied them, and they got in a different car. How About rode by a motorcycle. He rode by to make sure this was them over there. How About rode by who on a motorcycle? E Moneybags. You were in the car with whom? Supreme. And the shooters were together in another car? Yes, How About put his motorcycle up and got in the car with them. So How About went to see where E Moneybags was and came back to the house? Yeah. And then drove the shooters to the scene? Yes. What happened when you got there? They got out of the car. Let me ask you, did you see this happen or were you in a different... I was in a different, like a block over. Okay. In some area where they had a lot of trees. And what happened when you were on that block? I could just hear the gunshots. What did you see after hearing the gunshots? I seen Barry Broughton running. Where was he running? He was running close to us by the trees, and he wanted to get in the car with me, and I told him nah. I got on the walkie-talkie, and I called the guys that was driving the other car, and How About picked him up. I didn't watch him pick him up. I know he picked him up because we all met up again. What happened after the other people picked up Barry Broughton? They were going back to the house and dropped off the guns. Did you meet with the team after that? Meaning the hit team after this? Yes. And did anybody tell you what happened? Yes, they told me that TJ didn't fire any shots. And did they tell you anything else about the murder? Yes. What's that? They told me that there was a bunch of guys standing around the car and that they took off running when they started firing on E Moneybags, that he actually had a gun. So did anybody other than Barry Broughton shoot at E Moneybags according to the hit team? Yes, everybody, but I found out later that Les actually didn't fire any shots either. Okay, did you do anything to confirm that E Moneybags had in fact been killed? No, I really didn't do anything in particular. Did you find out? Were you concerned that maybe that actually hadn't happened? No. Why not? I don't know. I didn't think... I could hear the shots. I found out later on that he was dead. Supreme told me. Did you see Supreme after E Moneybags was killed? Yes, he was in the car with me. But after that day, did you see him? Yes, I met up with him to get paid. Where? Do you remember where he paid you for that first one? I was downtown somewhere. I think it was like 23rd Street in Manhattan. And what happened when you met him to get paid? He was with a girl outside of a restaurant. He came outside. I stood outside. He came outside to talk to me. He had a brown bag with him, and we just talked about it for a little while. What was in the brown bag? Money. In what form? $25,000. Cash? Yes. What did you do with that money? I took it, called the guys up, and paid them. How much did you pay the guys? I gave Les $4,500. I was supposed to give him five, but I gave him $4,500. I gave Barry Broughton $4,500. I gave TJ $3,000 because he didn't fire any shots, and I gave Alvin $4,500. You kept your $5,000? Yes, I kept the rest. Plus the extra that you had withheld from the members of the team, is that right? Yes. After you killed E Moneybags, who did you intend to kill next? Troy, Big Nose Troy.